him was very, very, was very enlightening for him, and it wasn't violent. And then I had another one where he was actually he had a fractured leg in three places, and had X-rays of his leg, and it was broken. And they said, "Hey, you're going to be limping the rest of your life." Well, he had actually ran into some sort of angelic or benevolent ET that literally cured him of his ailment, and actually had an X-ray of it and was completely healed. So
Oh, wow.
those kind of spontaneous things are great. Now, me, I had a spontaneous healing too, and they were happened to kind of these unknown boils I had, and I was telepathically. I had these they were actually golf-size boils, and they were underneath my armpits, down on my legs, on my back. So of course, I went to the dermatologist and what have you. They couldn't figure out what it was, and they gave me a shot, and they gave me some other things, and said to come back, and they kept on actually multiplying.
Uh-huh.
And for me,
Well, how long did it do it for? I mean, how long did you experience
about
that?
3 days.
Wow.
Days. Yeah, and they were multiplying, and I was itching them, and obviously it was some disorder. I was actually drawing blood because it was just itching so badly. I mean, it was literally driving me insane. I mean, it was, and they didn't know what they were. They had no explanation what they were. They said, "Well, it's some sort of allergy, but we don't know what kind of allergy." And that to take these pills, they gave me a shot. I think it was I forget what the shot was, and they gave me some pills and some lotions. They come back, and if this doesn't work, come back in 3 days. Well, I got that was the one benevolent ET or otherworldly experience I had myself was. I got a transmission, and this is after my uncle had passed away. I actually got a telepathic message from him, and he told me to get inside a warm bath and turn off the lights and count backwards slowly and breathe from 10 to 1, which, at that time I was desperate to do anything. So what do? I do it, and I hear this voice, and I've had my uncle come to me on many, many, many obscure occasions. It's unbelievable as far as, and it's serendipitous, and it borders on absolute insanity. But anyway, so I did it. Okay, well, lo and behold, I have out of body experience, OBE, and I'm going through all these different majors. I hit a wormhole. I'm free flowing all the way through. I'm seeing all of these cities and civilizations, and I go through another wormhole. I keep going, and I'm seeing all this absolute beauty, and which actually correlates to the experience I had when I was 12. But I see this absolutely beautiful world, and it's it's just gorgeous, and it's peaceful, and it's advanced. And then I got to a point where there was a voice that came to me and said, "Listen, if you go any further, you won't be able to come back, and you won't be able to see your family. You're going to go and transition." And I said, "Hey, I want to go back. I want to come back." And absolutely, I come back, and all the boils were completely gone.
Oh, wow!
Everything was gone.
Any scars or anything from it, or
nothing?
Nothing. Oh,
nothing.
And all
gone
in a
gone.
3-day period.
Yeah, gone.
And we're talking how big did they get actually?
Golf ball.
Oh.
And the scarring that I actually had through blood all was absolutely cured. I never had a problem after that.
Oh, wow.
So I've had that experience, and so that one of the real beautiful ones was that. But in comparison to some of the trauma, as far as when you're a small child, and as far as in your part of the abduction cycle, and especially with the grays, which the big issues is, and again, there's a huge discussion right now whether the grays were actually a creation with that could have been with science down here, were an actual creation of our own. And I've heard that story before, which is extraordinary. And if that's the case, I tell you what, I would love to know, exactly about that. But the Greys are for some reason, trying to gain something through the divine entity, the divinity of us, that we have somehow got placed, and it's some sort of usable quantity, the essence. Right? And I guess the reason why, and I thought about this through deep meditation, and one of the things is that we must be extraordinarily divine to be of any use to any kind of extraterrestrials, in any way, shape, or form. We must have something that of value to them, other than just cattle, other than just mere, cattle, or or food or whatever. So, but yeah. Anyway, so I was really kind of fascinated with that whole thought. In our last conversation, we were talking about that, but I think that there's a divinity within us, and that was placed in us, and I think as a protection. And I don't, I think there's something to us. So,
but
in many respects,
but Chad, what gets me is that they're taking bodily fluids, and they're taking samples of tissue. They're
DNA,
DNA, and women claiming that they had sex with the Greys. Impregnation. So they want, maybe, I wonder if they're looking to, maybe they got a problem with their species, maybe dying out or something.
Could be.
Yeah, and they need something. I don't know. It's just, that's the part that really intrigues me. Is I mean, you hear these people about implants and all this stuff going on, and they're talking about the Greys. The same thing that you were talking about. They would, come up to they'd wake up and the Grey would be standing there, a bunch of them right there by your bed.
Right. Sure. And I know, and that is, that is such a common. In fact, the Greys standing around the bed is actually more common than actually being abducted and actually being brought up into a ship. I've heard that this many times. That's been a lot of people's experiences. So whatever they're getting, whatever they're getting, or whatever they're extracting, or whatever the use is, I don't know. And one of the things too, and it kind of irritates me, a lot of people who are in this, I guess, in the big, circuit, is they pretend that they know. I mean, some of the stuff I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I've never had anyone get with any kind of an authority to find out exactly what they want, where it's conclusive. There's so many different ideas on this whole thing. So, but yeah. Anyways, that's just my thing. I think that there's something divine in us, and there must be a value. Now, if you get back in the Stitchin thing or Ancient Aliens, if you're still, we were created to be, these hominoids who mine gold, and I guess the experiment went awry. Where essentially the slaves revolted, and that was a big problem with all the Anunnaki, and which I think is really fascinating too, which could be very true. I mean, there's been several movies, the Stargate movies, and that was that kind of came up with that, which was a kind of a fall through with that, but at any rate, okay, what do they want? And why? And it's not just, this is the thing too, is that you can go to any place in the world, and as far as the abductees, they're rational, sane people who are not looking for attention, people who are just out fishing in a lake, they're out in an obscure thing, and these things happen to them, and it leaves an indelible imprint on them, and they can't. It's information that they can't do anything with. As far as how do you process this stuff? I mean, it's extraordinarily difficult. So, but anyways, getting into that whole thing, I've had a lot of. It's been fascinating for me. As far as taglines, as far as what are you when you want to grow up? Are you ufologist? Well, yes, I am. And are you a movie maker? Well, yes, I am. Are you a writer? Yes, I am. I frankly, in this whole subject matter, I'm kind of connected in a lot of these different things. But again, I alluded this to you too in the last conversation. I've had an amazing thing come over me whenever I'm doing this stuff, where I have this sense of that the reason I'm doing this, everything is much more than any kind of like a movie or any kind of a book or manuscript, whatever. There's a genuine need, and again, I talk about this. It's almost cathartic talking about these subjects, especially with other people who are open, open the discussion. Now, incidentally, I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, well, I don't believe in extraterrestrials, or I don't believe in life in other planets and all that stuff." And I scratch my head a little bit, but in retrospect, what I tell them is, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't. I said, you're the sum total of your experiences, and if you have not experienced this event at some level, like for instance, you and your New Mexico contact out there.
Oh yeah.
Your eyes are just. I mean, how can you? It'd be very difficult unless you're an empath to really understand people that have actually experienced these things here. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on that. So,
well, you know what? You'd have to have a real closed mind just to think that we're the only things on our planet, and that the whole everywhere there's no life in any other planet, any other solar system. We're it. Okay. That's like saying, hey, the world's still flat. And there's people saying the world's flat. It's not round.
Right.
Okay. And I always, when I had somebody last week talking about it, I said, okay, well, if the world's flat, where does the water go from the oceans? It's got to go somewhere.
Right,
it's going somewhere.
Doesn't it fall off the side? Right. I know.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with it too. I honest to God, Gary, I'm like you. I know, okay, flat Earth. Okay, so the water just stays that way, and it just, it doesn't fall off or doesn't go off in the universe, whatever. So you just kind of have to laugh a little bit and say, well, hey, whatever. And I thought, well, gosh, I think we have satellites. I think we have enough information. But apparently, I mean, these people, I mean,
they're serious.
They are serious.
Yeah.
They're serious. Yeah.
Well, maybe they were abducted, but not by the Greys.
I don't know.
Something. I mean, seriously. I mean, I've only told a couple people about what I saw in that desert in New Mexico. And, when I talked about it, they looked at me like I was crazy, And you got to have an open mind because, like I just said, if you believe we're the only ones here, right, it's like back in before Christ, okay, the fire gods, the sun god, the water god, you name it, whatever god, okay, people have to believe in something, but to believe that we're the only ones around, hey, no way. I mean, you got to have an open mind, and it's you got to.
Well, yeah, you do. Well, there's the Drake equation, which that was that's been around for forever, and actually it's been modified. As far as the chances of not having extraterrestrials are just so nil. It's ridiculous. It borders on the ridiculous. But what's so funny is that and it is a tricky proposition because I listened to Neil deGrasse and some of this scientific minds out there who say, hey, show me the proof or show me the photograph, etc. So well, now here's the problem with the whole photograph thing. Number one, first of all, I don't carry I don't carry I mean, I know they have smartphones. I mean, I've got a dumb phone, as far as mine isn't very smart as far as photographs go. But then again, everything can be photoshopped. I don't know what people expect with, as far as the whole proof, because, I've seen so many things that are just been complete fake that I couldn't tell the difference of whether it was actual or not. And so people keep wanting to see this, gigantic proof, and they discount real testimony. Like, for instance, with various various people that the experiencers that have been there, they have a tendency not to believe them or want to call it some sort of a